Thank you so much to Muna and to Eugene for joining us here this morning. Before we get into our discussion on the commercial power of women's sports, we are going to play 2 short videos to inspire us all. So please roll the videos.
New Zealand is welcoming the world to Rugby World Cup 2021. Our love of rugby is defined not by the outcome, but by the breathtaking moments. These moments are priceless. It's these moments that MasterCard will capture through the power of sound and gift to the player of the match. Inspired by the kaikaranga, the voice that expresses power, grace and courage, the values aligned with the greatest players.
The inspiration behind the MasterCard Player of the Match Sonic Trophy was the kaikaranga, or the ceremonial caller, and more specifically the kakahu, or traditional cloak that we wear. We've not only got elements on the outside of the trophy, but it's the kōrero and the sound coming out from it.
What an incredible play. We are witnessing rugby history.
The Sonic Trophy will encourage the next generation of players by immortalising the raw emotion of each match.
She storms the line to push her team to victory. Incredible!
So no doubt some very innovative and groundbreaking campaigns, both from MasterCard and ADIDAS in the field of women's sport. So thank you for sharing those with us all today. We're going to start by looking at the current state of play. So it's no doubt that the commercialization in women's sport has seen remarkable growth in recent years. Global revenue forecasts are set to surpass 2.3 billion, according to a recent report by Deloitte in 2025. Ben, I'd like to start with you. Do you think that that is translating to more long-term sponsorship and support for female athletes? And is there a real tipping point now in the commercialization of women's sport?
Thank you, Lisa. So I'll try and raise my voice as much as possible, sit up and loud. So thank you so much for having me back on the stage, on the floor. I'm very happy to be joining you, Eugene. ADIDAS is one of my favorite brands ever, so thank you. And thank you for all the work that you're doing. Absolutely. I think 24 was a fantastic year for women's sports, and 25 is even bigger in that. So that specific report from Deloitte actually says that global revenue of the industry has grown, it was predicted to grow in 25 to 2.3 billion USD, which supersedes the estimate or the prediction of 1 billion. So they're already in a 1 billion double growth to what was estimated. Media spend has tripled on women's sports, so that's a great indication of where we're heading. And it's just growing more and more, and we're going to see more trends. We're going to see more supporters going into that space because there's a huge opportunity. And we're excited. MasterCard is there. We're with the Rugby Women's World Cup, which is coming up this summer in the UK. Similarly, with different partners, we sponsor the Arsenal WFC, which was one of the most successful female football teams in the history of Europe. They actually sold out the Emirates Stadium last year, and they extended their 2025 schedule. So a lot of successes and in the last few years, and more to come.
Excellent. And how does that success, Eugene, translate here in the region? What are we seeing in terms of brands getting more involved in women's sports here in the Middle East?
Yeah. I'll start with also saying huge thank you for having me here. And I'm really pleased to see the diverse group of people in this room as well, and even in our panel, right? Because I truly believe that the question of women's sports is not the question on the women, it's the question of and it's very kind of full teams within the brands and within the organizations, and it's great to see that this topic is so high on the agenda of all the key leading organizations in the world right now. Before I would probably go into the topic of okay, what's happening here overall, let's probably try and think of let's say from not top to bottom numbers, but from bottom up how the whole funnel of women in sports is happening, right? And I think it's quite easy to build it into a journey that the girl should go through to then become professional athletes, and then to for us like brands to commercialize, right? So I think it all starts with access to sport as one of the key first steps on the journey to grow and strengthen the female game overall, right? We then go into how we, as brands, as organizations, as governments, right? And this is hopefully something we can also talk about during the panel, can support on this journey, and also how we can support that bridge from being a amateur football player, for example, into a professional football player, right? And then on top of that, how we kind of create this whole platform of female sports to start to recreate the cycle of inspiration for the younger generation, and then it builds into the full kind of end-to-end scope, right? So for me, I think over the last 2-3 years, we have been observing a huge progress in this area globally, and obviously a lot of brands puts high to their agendas and strategies, female sport and female leadership as well, wider than only sports. But I think what is truly amazing and astonishing is to see how it's happening in this region as well, and from even from the video that we were just sharing, right? And honestly, it's just a small part of everything that is happening here. It's great to see how the female sports has been evolving, right? And I think if we look at numbers, probably in the last just 1 year, over 20% growth of sponsorships within the female sports, and I think it's just the beginning. Or let's say it's beginning was probably 5 years ago, but now we're at the stage where it should hit the tipping point for us to truly come to the next level where it's a proper equal look at male game and female game, right, across different sports and not on some specific sports. So I would say that's kind of the main angle of how I would be looking at the growth. And within ADIDAS, obviously, we're very lucky to first of all work in this industry overall, right? It's a great moment to be in, and it's a great moment to be able to support female sports being a natural contributor to sports as a sports brand. So I think not only us, but also some of our friends in competitive brands also doing an amazing job in driving that agenda. And obviously we're quite proud about all the successes and let's say accomplishments that we have been having over the last couple of years.
Amazing. I mean, there's certainly huge potential, and we've talked a lot about growth. There are still, though, some challenges that remain, and I'd like to kind of unpack them a little bit more. Eugene, maybe we start with you. Talked about the journey. How impacted is that journey by outdated stereotypes, and how can brands really help to rewrite them?
Look, I think stereotypes is one of the key topics in the journey that could be a barrier towards girls' participation in sports, right? And I think we can talk from the global lens standpoint, which obviously we have been observing a lot of stereotypes fighting in the last 5, probably 10 years, right? And the more brands come and play to support and to fight those stereotypes together with media, together with the non-profit organizations, is the better. But also the journey that we have been observing in Middle East and North Africa is truly inspiring and astonishing, right? And when we talk about stereotypes specifically, this is one of those big enemies that we are trying to fight in the female sports specifically. And those stereotypes you can say start from let's say from media, and start from how the female sports is being supported and the coverage of the sports within media, right? How many female commentators do we know in football, for example, right? I think UK is one of those countries where we see great progress on that, and more to come, I think, across the whole region. But not only speaking about this kind of upper funnel of what we see in online, in TV, in whatever media, right? That goes as deep to the stereotypes in the family. Right, and I think in Middle East, specifically in GCC, the journey that a lot of countries have been on in the last probably 5-7 years is really inspiring, and the growth and the pace of the changes is tremendous, right? And I think we as a brand can only support that through education, through inspiration, through storytelling, right? To showcase that anything is possible, or as we used to say, impossible is nothing. But also to really endorse sports not only among girls or women, but also endorse sports among the society overall. Because when you go to that level, this is where a father of family should be accepting fine with his daughter to go to play football, for example, right? And my daughter, for example, she's doing gymnastics. She's also interested in football now, so it's like it's something that we need to promote, and this is something that we need to also educate the wider consumer. And I think we're in a great step of this journey, but still, I think we have a lot of work to be done here.
And we've talked a little bit about media and the importance of media promoting women's sport, and also the power of social media was discussed in the earlier panel. What do you think could be done from a media perspective to really kind of further enhance the reputation of women's sports and get more brands to invest for the long term?
Yeah. So I think it's a cycle, right? So the more brands support women's sports, the more the media would follow. It's a cycle, and then and so on, and we keep on going. I think media is following the trends, and as the trends are growing and changing in the last few years and growing as we move forward, we're going to find that media, as I mentioned, media spend has tripled since 2021 when it comes to women's sports. So we're gonna see it changing, but I definitely think the more brands like us and others who are doing a really great job sponsor and support women's sports, you're going to see a huge impact. Honestly, it's such an untapped opportunity, and when brands work with women's sports organizations, whether it's teams, athletes, and the organizations themselves, there's so much potential because you work from down upwards. There's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of flexibility that you do not get when you work with men's teams, as per se. So there's a lot of opportunity there that brands don't necessarily see. So when they see brands like MasterCard, ADIDAS, and Coca-Cola, and so many others that play in that space, I believe they will follow and we'll see more. Specifically on social media, if you think about, these are data, right? So when you look at women athletes who are present on social media have much higher influence than any other influencers. So people see them, young girls see them as role models. women are a very loyal fan base to the product or a brand, and I think that supports their team. So I think media plays a role in that, but also organizations, the more they support, the more the media will follow and so on.
Megan. And I love that idea of that untapped opportunity. I think that's really powerful. And I'd like to explore that kind of opportunity piece. Well, we've talked about media. Eugene, let's talk about government. What is the role of government in promoting women's sport, and where do you think we are now?
Yep. So again, if you're okay with that, I will be referring to this consumer journey of how the funnel of that women's sports would be flowing, right? So I think governmental role is fundamental, right? Overall, I don't think that any brand, we're talking about the smallest brands in the world, the biggest brands in the world, can let's say be on par with the power that the government can have towards the life of the residents of certain country, right? So I think the strategic programs that we have been seeing, for example, in Saudi Arabia or in UAE, right, or in Qatar, let's say, for that example, because Qatar is also one of the advanced sport nations in GCC, I think is the pure foundation of developing sports overall and developing female sports specifically, right? The Qatar World Cup is a great example of how one event can bring the inspiration to the whole region, right? And sports booming over the last 2-3 years, right? And we see that effect, but also the access to sports, right? We can do a couple of events. Probably we can even do a series of events across the year, right? We can engage probably 50,000 girls into sports, right? But we're not talking about millions, right? And this is the scale, and this is the level where only the government can play a pivotal role in terms of driving the sport. And I think we are having a lot of great examples. Again, I can speak on behalf of our brand. We're partnering, for example, with the Saudi Football Federation, with the UAE Football Federation. We see a lot of progress, and honestly, like something that brands cannot dream of doing, right? Sometimes if any of you have seen the documentary about the change of Saudi football over the last 5-7 years, FIFA documentary, it's amazing. If you haven't, please have a look. It's just a very interesting documentary to see, even if you're not interested in female sports, even though I don't think anyone here is in that camp. And the level of progress, the level of leadership that the government shows in the sense is tremendous, right? We couldn't do it ourselves, obviously, right? We can only try to support as much as we can and try to play a role that the brand can play in it. And again, the governments are the foundation of creating access. And one probably addition that I would say to that is, I came to this region like 3 years ago, right? And a lot of things that I've heard as a newbie, as a newcomer to the region is, and you can imagine for ADIDAS, female sports is one of the key agenda items overall in any strategy, any year for the last probably 10 years, right? So one of the first things that you hear is the whole story of what is not there, right? Okay, girls couldn't do physical exercise lessons in Saudi Arabia before 2018, or this couldn't be happening, that couldn't be happening, right? Gyms couldn't be multi-gender, and so on and so on. So there are a lot of things that we hear as, let's say, probably also stereotypes from outside of the region, and we forget about all the great things I hear. Like across the world, one of the big parts of that funnel for girls and women to participate in sports is safety, right? And this is something that is almost a given in this region, which we sometimes don't appreciate, but actually it's one of the fundamental, if you think about Maslow pyramid, right? It's one of the fundamental needs for girls to participate in sports. So I think what governments have been doing in GCC specifically is like astonishing. And honestly, we're really proud and to partner with a lot of governmental entities as well to help promote sports. And honestly, very thankful for all the efforts that they have been doing, because without that, obviously nothing would be possible.
And in terms of partnership, you both have a number of partnerships with athletes and ambassadors. And I think that is an opportunity to have more meaningful conversations with the different audiences, to encourage, to inspire, to educate young girls to get involved as well. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the work you're doing? I mean, I'll come to you first in this space, really utilising those ambassadors to get the message out there.
Sure. So one of the ambassadors that we're really proud to work with, one of the golfers, Anika Sorensen. So we support her foundation, Anika, which enables education and creates awareness about health problems, which has been critical. In addition, we've partnered with Australian Open on an amazing campaign with Alicia Modic, who's one of the low vision tennis players, and created a beautiful campaign, a beautiful piece, which had a lovely story, but also a good cause to create awareness about that topic. So if we can play that video, please.
A man and a woman play on a shadowy tennis court.
When I get out on the court, I really don't focus on anything else. Just focus on the game and pretty much go as hard as I can and give it everything I've got.
Text. 75% of Australians with a disability say major sporting events have the power to make them feel more included.
You get to push yourself in many different ways. You feel on top of the world if you hit a good shot.
The woman serves. The man listens, then returns the ball.
B2 players rely on the bounce.
They play energetically.
First bounce, once I hear it, I know forehand, backhand. Obviously, you want to hit a winner every time.
Text. Courtney Wiebeck, blind and low vision B2 champion.
Through the blind sports community, got asked if I wanted to have a hit of tennis and rolled on from there, and I've really enjoyed it since then.
Mick Lee, blind and low vision B3 champion. Title. Tennis in a new light. A woman touches a notch in the base of a MasterCard touch card.
MasterCard is launching touch cards for people in Australia with a vision impairment.
Text. Alicia Mollick, former world number 8.
So they gave me the experience of playing tennis without relying on my vision.
These are blackout glasses. They will block your vision completely. Good luck playing, Courtney.
All right, let's do it.
Alicia puts on the glasses.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Play.
Alicia misses the ball.
The most challenging part for me was picking up the sound when the ball is in flight. It made me feel that I was really incapable of a skill that ordinarily I'd be an expert at. That was very, very difficult, Courtney.
Alicia removes the blackout glasses, then hits the ball back and forth with Courtney.
It's not a sport that you have to see to enjoy or to be good at. It's something you can hear as well. It's made me realise that vision-impaired athletes are the superstars. That was a really good point. Tennis is priceless to me because it includes everyone and, more importantly, it's accessible to everyone.
I've come out a lot more since playing tennis. It's given me a new sense of independence.
We've seen wheelchair tennis grow and grow and grow. To have, hopefully, visually impaired blind tennis in a spot like that over the next few years would be incredible.
The words official partner appear below the logos for the Australian Open and MasterCard. Text, spotlighting blind and low vision tennis. The words priceless to me appear beside the MasterCard logo.
So I think one special thing about this campaign and others is that it's not just about the sponsorship that the companies put behind a tournament or an athlete. It's about the cause. Actually, in this case, it's the technology we provided as a solution. So that's what I meant about how these partnerships, you can work with women's sports organizations from the ground up, collaborate, innovate, come up with solutions. There's so much you can do. So I think it's such a great opportunity there.
Eugene, do you have anything to add?
I have a lot of questions. How much time do I have? So, I think out of this whole journey, creating the role models in sports is one of the key roles that a brand can play overall, right? And if you think about brand investors in male football, for example, you easily come up with names. Cristiano Ronaldo pretty much transforms the sport of the whole region, just him on his own, right? Messi did the same across some other region. But when we talk about the female sports, right, we also have a lot of great examples of role models and brand investors who have been let's say, the icons of iconic athletes of sports, but I still think that we are not yet there in terms of the equal amount of those superstars in different sports, right? And I think this is one of the roles that we can play as a brand as well in creating platforms and helping those young athletes to create platforms for themselves and to help them develop their platforms to become the iconic athletes, right? And iconic athletes is not only about winning on the court or on the run track, right? It's also about being the cultural influencer in the world of like the whole country and sometimes the world overall. And we actually have a lot of great examples, right? And I won't go into the list of all the brand partners we have. Obviously, we're a sports brand, so that's one of our credibility builders to partner with a lot of athletes. But I think we have a few of amazing examples, which not thanks to ADIDAS, by the way, but thanks to how the industry has been evolving over the years, right? And like naming the first, for example, right? Rahma Mubarak, the first Saudi female to climb Everest, right? It's an amazing, inspirational story that has been out there for quite some time, right? And we're looking at that way. She's the first Saudi female to climb Everest. But actually, the other part of the story is that actually she's the youngest Arab overall to climb Everest, right? So it just shows how there are no limits and barriers to female sports versus any sport overall, right? So it's no more about just female game we're talking about, right? Again, last year's Olympics, right, have shown a lot of success for female individual athletes across UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. We're partnering with Yara Lagbani, who is the first WTA ranked Saudi tennis player as well. So these stories is something that help us to create the inspiration and the role modeling. And again, as you said, this then empowers the grassroots, right? Because seeing those role models, more girls will come to sports, more families will see their girl participating in this certain sport as a norm, so that they don't have this barrier of stereotype to bring them there, right? And then hopefully with the support of like mentorship programs, coaches, we can make that full circle to them becoming the next role model. So if I was to summarize, for us, the main big idea and the main ambition, and personally, I really dream that the biggest Arab athletes that ADIDAS will be partnering in, let's say, 5 years, will be female athletes, right? That would be an amazing accomplishment that we are currently working on to also help those athletes grow and create cultural impact.
Amazing. And that leads us nicely on to looking to the future. So we talked about, the next 5 to 10 years. What does broader success look like in the next 5 to 10 years? And how can the future of women's sport remain rooted in its unique values? So the inclusivity, the community, the purpose piece, while scaling commercially. Should we start with you?
Sure. Thank you. So, success in 5 to 10 years, and I think I was chatting to someone about this at the back of the room. I think is when we stop talking about women's sports versus male sports. It should just be sports, right? Because I think that it's a huge catalyst actually for growth from a business perspective. Supporting women's sports, and as we move into the future, is a huge catalyst for growth, whether in business or in the community. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But also from an inclusion and belonging standpoint, MasterCard has always been a great driver for inclusion and belonging. It's not just with sponsorships, it's also internally and externally within employees, communities, and citizens and our consumers. MasterCard has been recognized by many organizations on closing the gender gap. When it comes to the pay equity gap, actually for every $1 that a woman earns at MasterCard, it's equal to $1 that a man earns. And I know I was talking to my son about that, and he's 10 years old, and he's like, okay, so what? Right? Because it should be but it's not. And it's a huge accomplishment, actually, especially in the West, which, to your point, so there's some good things that we don't necessarily talk about in this part of the world. But a lot of organizations haven't reached that. So we're very proud to be recognized as such and pushing the boundaries as such. So we want to make sure that inclusion and belonging is not just what we say, it's what we do, it's a value. And by bringing everyone together on that set value, on that standard value, we're going to be setting the stage for more to come. And we're in a world where we'll stop talking about women's sports versus men's sports, and we'll talk about it as just one unified power.
Yeah, Eugene, that's Larry.
I will not repeat, but I fully agree. This is the big idea. This is kind of the moonshot that we all should fight for. I would probably just address it from the other side, right? I think how the success could look like is if while looking on the journey of a girl becoming an iconic athlete, there would be no obstacles on the way, right? I think this would be when we reach this stage, right? This means that the female sports has been normalized and there is no female or male sports, and also that means that we not only brands, but we as society have created enough opportunities for girls to be successful and sometimes more successful than boys in sports, right? I think this is the best dream that's or let's say it's not a dream. I think you were talking about like a dream, a big ambition. This is more practical targets that we need to set on this journey, and then we will be there and we will know that.
Amazing. I think we are nearly out of time. So can I just ask you for your final thoughts? So just a few short words as two very established brands in women's sports. So it's incredible work. What advice would you give to other brands that are looking to partner with women's sports? Let's start.
Sure. So again, partnerships in general are magic, right? I'm a true believer myself in MasterCard and the power of partnerships, but also when it comes to working with women's sports, brands, organizations, companies, there's a lot of power there. So I encourage all the other brands to join in, because it's not just about doing the right thing to support women's sports. It's not just about doing the right thing. It's about creating the change and the impact that we're going to see in the future and for the children and next generations. So I think join us, and it's more about creating the impact and creating that change.
Fine, both of me.
Yeah, look, I agree as well. Again, it's hard to argue with that, to be honest. And I will just say that how many times we have heard in organization sense, I heard it also being like quite a lot of years in my company, the phrase women's sports and next to words purpose, right? I think a lot of times, because for a lot of companies, especially less established companies in terms of driving the female sports, this could be a cherry on the pie initiative, purpose-driven initiatives. You know what, we have our main thing, but then this is the right thing to do, or this is like the purposeful thing to do, right? So I think these times are long past, right? And the key advice is that this is no more a purpose thing. It's actually now a proper smart thing to do from the business standpoint. And while it will create a lot of opportunities and a lot of right things on the way, it actually is probably the only winning strategy that any brand can have. Because at the end of the day, we know that when we talk about households, the decision making or making purchases in households is usually coming from a woman, right? So basically, it's not only about purpose. It's actually very much about commercial success that any brand who's looking to grow has to look at.
So I think the outtake there is this is not the right thing to do. This is the smart thing to do, the thing to do, and everyone should embrace the opportunity. Thank you so much to Muna, to Eugene. Thank you, they're brilliant panelists. Really enjoyed the conversation, and thank you to the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.